What does it take to turn a simple idea scribbled on a piece of paper into an epic board game that families and gamers around the world can't wait to play? A game that will engage every member of your family, no matter their age. Welcome to episode 179 of Meeple to Meeple. Today I am joined by Spencer Lloyd Thomas, the creative mind behind PlayMonkey Games in the United Kingdom. Spencer has built a reputation for designing games that are accessible, engaging, and packed with clever decisions. Games that encourage creativity and play for the entire family. Whether it's rallying troops in Muster or racing to outwit hungry critters in Picnic Panic, his games combine approachable rules with meaningful strategy and plenty of replayability. Today, we're going to talk about his journey into the tabletop game design, what inspires his creative process, the realities of publishing as an independent designer, and what's next for PlayMonkey Games. Spencer, thanks for joining me. How are you?
Yeah, good, PJ. Yeah, thanks for having me. Excited to be here. So, let's
Absolutely.
get
Thanks.
cracking. What an intro, by the way.
Well, thank you very much. I'm really excited to talk about your journey, the journey of PlayMonkey, your games. I know we got a lot to cover, and we don't have all day. So let me ask you, what was the first game that got you into the modern board game hobby?
Yeah, I mean that is a good question. It depends what you mean by modern, right?
So I guess, people say that all the time. And maybe I should clear that up because I've been asking this question for like 2 years now. When I say modern board game hobby, I mean not the Milton Bradley classics from the 80s, right? So when I think of modern board game hobby, I think of everything you would see at the Games Expo, we would see at Origins or Gen Con, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So I would say, I mean, it's a very easy answer for me, right? So I was like maybe 7 years old. So yeah, just a few years ago, and I still remember the name of the guy at primary school. His
Okay.
name was John Pilkinghorn. I'm not in touch with him anymore, so it's very unlikely that he's listening to this. But John, if you are, thank you. Uh, and he, I think it was like lunchtime, primary school, and he said, "Come over here," right? He said, "Come over here," and he reaches into his bag and
Yeah.
he pulls out what is like a deck box,
Okay.
and he reaches inside and he pulls out a rule book,
Okay.
which is the size of the deck box, but not like a unfold the thing, whatever. Like it's a miniature book. And I don't know if you remember this, but Magic the Gathering
Ah,
used to come in every starter box with a full rule book,
it
just
did.
like a little miniature Bible. And I didn't know, it was like stapled
Yeah.
together or something. And when you're like 7 years old, and it's in tiny text. Like if I got there now, I probably couldn't read it. I'd be like, find me a YouTube video or something. But this was obviously this was in the 90s, and I just thought it was the rule book that hooked me actually because it had the cool, Magic the Gathering, the graphic on the front. The great thing about that is that hasn't changed because it's on the card
Yeah.
back, and of course you can't
Yeah.
change it if it's on the card back. And I just remember going, "Oh, what is that?" He's like, "Oh, it's a new game that my dad got me." And I'm looking at this rule with a tiny little text. It's really cool when you're a kid. The mana symbols, I loved that. And I remember he started describing it to me, and it didn't make any sense. He's like, "This is how you play. You've got to tap lands." I'm like, "What do you tap lands? What are you talking about?" And I remember, and then obviously there's the tap symbol as well, right? So I remember reading. I think he might have given me the rule book to take home, but no cards. Like he kept the cards to himself. Didn't want me having those, and he gave me the rule book, and I think I took it home and read it cover to cover, like probably 5-10 times, and then I was hooked. And I think I played, when I played at his house, played a couple of times, and then started bugging my parents, and they're like, "What are you doing? Magic? You want magic? You've got a magic kit. What are you talking about? This magic?" And finally, I guess I must have pestered them enough. They found somewhere that was stocking it, and this was. I don't know how much magic you played or how far back your magic, dare I say, pedigree goes. I hate using that word, but this was Ice Age, which I think was
Okay.
one of the earlier
Yeah.
sets, which I wish I'd kept on to a few of those sealed starter packs that my
Uh-huh.
my dad got me and boosters, but those are long gone. But yeah, that was what got me hooked, and yeah, so I've been playing Magic on and off for decades since, and I don't play actively today, but that's definitely getting it.
Do you get opportunities to at least play every now and then now, or just
Yeah, so it's weird because people come in and out of your life, and you are either a Magic player or you're not, and you don't want to inflict that on on somebody that's not. But we my wife has got this close friend, and my wife's not really a board gamer,
okay?
and her friend isn't either. But then she started dating this guy, and guess what? He's a Magic player, and this was
Huh,
like, as soon as we found that out, like, oh yes, let's do like double
there it
dates and
is.
let's
There
do
it
dinner
is.
nights, and we'll just rush through dinner and then clear the table. And then we got into Commander or what was it called, EDH or something originally, the
Yeah.
100 card format. We can't have any
Yep.
duplicates.
Yep.
So yeah, we did that, and then because and my wife was like, I'm not playing Magic. This is way too complicated. But because he got his wife, my wife's friend, into Commander, I think he bought her a couple of decks, and she thought the
Yeah.
art was cute or something. Then
Yep.
she started working on my wife, and then she eventually started playing. So we'd have like four-way Commander battles. Like it was great.
Nice.
So
Nice.
yeah, it's funny how that happens. That was 20 years after I was first
Ah,
introduced to
that's
Magic.
that is fantastic. That's amazing. Oh, that's such a good story.
She still won't play with me two-player, by the way.
Really?
Yeah,
Only
yeah. It's
but
got to be got to be the full way.
will she play two-player with her friend,
It's
the other
quite
wife?
possible. Yeah, it's quite possible.
Yeah. Yep. That's how that goes. That yeah, Magic the Gathering, yeah. My journey in Magic the Gathering goes back to beta.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can out pedigree me then. I think that's what
Well,
you're
I'm
saying.
not that I'm trying to do that. To be fair, though, I wasn't buying cards. I had so many friends who were into it, and they were collecting, like, voraciously that I didn't have to buy any cards. They would just be like, "Look here, you could build this," and, whatnot. First thing I ever built was a green elephant deck,
Mm,
and the very first Magic card that I ever purchased, like a single at a store, was the bull elephant. It is a 4/4 trample, nothing exciting, but the artwork captured me. That's what it was, right? I think that's the thing about Magic is the artwork just captures you, and it's a sound. It implements sound game mechanics that no one can duplicate. You know,
mm, mm.
like whatever you think about Magic, it's just a really good mechanical card game,
Yeah,
and
it's kind of remarkable that the core system still survives today. And you probably know the backstory, and I'm probably misremembering the Richard Garfield interview, but I think he was pitching Robo Rally or something to what eventually became Wizards, and
yeah,
and they said, yeah, not interested, but can you come up with something that players can just keep in their pocket? And you said, we're gonna fine, fine, I'll go and invent Magic the Gathering then, and he goes and does that. And it's just like the best story. Rejection
right.
turned into obviously epic success.
So, what's the story behind PlayMonkey Games? You started as a Magic player, you dove into the world of board games, and now you have this project that you're what's the story behind it? How did it come into being?
Yeah, so it's a good one. I don't know how far back I can remember because it is kind of a natural, one of these natural kind of evolutions. It was quite organic. But here's a little factoid. Play Monkey Games. I actually had a board game company before Play Monkey Games, and it was called Play Money Games. Sound familiar?
Okay. Play
So
money.
yeah, so Play Money Games, which was a pun. So play money, shut up and take my money, and play money games, right? So it was a company that I set up to create economic, financial, themey kind of games. So think of like Acquire or Power Grid or games with this kind of engine. Uh, and I did actually develop two games on that label. The first one was called Leverage.
Mm,
I got the prototype box here. Let me get it out. I'm sorry if you're not listening on video, but this is it. I don't know if you can see that.
I do see that, yes. Leverage,
Yeah,
corporate takeovers, and financial brinkmanship.
yeah. For two to 2 to 5 players. Yeah, it doesn't really sound like a family-friendly title.
No, no.
So so that was a game design that I never finished, right? It never got published.
Mm.
But it made it to what I would say is a public playtesting phase, but maybe not blind playtesting, which is usually the one after. That's a public playtesting. I'm playtesting with people that I've never met before. And was I playing it with them? Yeah, maybe playing it with them or also observing, but they're teaching them the game. Whereas blind playtesting is usually what follows that, which is when you just give some of the components a rule book and walk away or post it to them or whatever.
Yeah.
And that I play tested that a bunch, including at UK Games Expo.
Mhm.
This was pre-COVID, and I remember there was a couple of guys that played it. They were from a board game group from Sheffield. Nicest guys, really good play testers and proper board gamers, right? Because UK Games Expo. When I say proper, I mean hardcore, right?
Yeah. Right.
They weren't like lightweight players, so this was kind of good. And they played it, and I think they kind of liked it. The game wasn't finished yet; it needed work. And the guy, one of the playtesters, turned to me, and goes, "Is this investment banking? The game?" and and he was kind of right, and I was like, "Yeah, that's not a great pitch, is it? Like that's just not an attractive thing." And you know, I'm a big fan of Acquire, by the way, which has effectively an investment banking theme. It's mergers and
Yes.
acquisitions,
Yeah, absolutely.
but it's not actually that heavy. It's I wouldn't say it's lightweight, but it's the rule sheet. And I actually love the rules of Acquire. I think it's the rules are underrated. It's kind of like I think it's like a single kind of A4 like letter size sheet, and that's it. It's not like a 30-page rule book. But it's amazing. It conveys that theme, and you feel like you're powerful, and you're acquiring hotel chains. You're holding stock, and you're getting bonuses, and like it has that whole feel that actually, some games like Monopoly also, if you are dominating everybody because you've just rolled the right dice,
You're
give
right.
give you that feel. Everyone else is miserable, but you've got to be at least in the choir. Everyone's kind of in with a chance, and so I kind of. I put that on hold, and then I came up with another game on that label. Similar, you're going to cringe here. Similar, Schemes of Wall Street was the name, but actually
Okay.
kind of lightweight and kind of cool. And I'm going to probably finish it one day. I even commissioned artwork on that one from this amazing Polish artist. He's called Matthias Gebrselassie. So he's a professional artist. He does board games and he's done a bunch, and he also does other. I think there's like mobile game illustrations, things like that as well. And he did Chronicles of Crime, Lucky Duck.
Yeah, absolutely. Yep.
And I absolutely love that, especially the location cards. And they were all set in London as well. So I was like, oh, I love this. So I actually reached out to him and he took a commission. So he did a bunch of art. And I think I've got one here as well. Let's see if I can. Did I print any of his fancy artwork? Of course I didn't. But I have a cool logo that he did.
Schemes of Wall Street.
And you
Look at
can see
that.
the shark. I mean, he did that.
Oh,
That's
yeah.
really cool. That's an original piece.
So what he's showing me, if you're just listening to us in audio, it's basically like a personification of a loan shark, but he's an actual shark. So I like that. That's a pun. That's good.
Yeah.
That's good.
And actually, there's another version of that shark, where he looks all innocent, right? And so the theme of the game is everybody starts off. Actually, it was called Honest. That was the game mechanic. And then you can either play it straight, and it's hard to make money when you're playing it straight, or you can become a schemer, and that's when your player card flips to this kind of evil looking loan
Okay.
shark. But of course, no one's going to trust you if you start off scheming them. They're like, oh, he's not trustworthy. So
That's true.
the game was kind of a bit of bluffing, and then usually like at the last turn, you like, okay, yeah, I'm the most trustworthy guy, and there's a little bit of a bonus at the end of
Yep.
the game if you stay honest throughout.
Right.
But the best play is to stay honest until the last round, and then get everyone's money, and then rip them off, right? Which is a true Wall Street kind of move. So that was the game.
So
So yeah.
you really pivoted. Like you went from like investment banking and scheming and, money rules to a lot more family friendly games with PlayMonkey. Tell me about the transition from Play Money to PlayMonkey.
Yeah, so that's a short story.
Okay.
I had kids, and I just added the K. Play Money became Play Monkey, and suddenly it sounds like a kid's brand. No, that was
So,
literally it. It was a separate company, so I shut down the
yeah,
old company. We didn't
right.
publish and set up a new one. But as simple as that.
That's amazing. So if you have children and you're a game designer, well, there you go. You could just pivot. I love it. That's fantastic. So, what did you learn in the first year of the industry that no one warned you about?
Yeah, I mean, a lot. So what I would say, so this is an interesting one. This is one that I grappled with a lot.
Okay.
The received wisdom, particularly if you go back pre-COVID times, I think, was that, if you're a designer, pitch to publishers, right? Okay, yeah, Kickstarter's kind of coming out, you could try that, but it's, you're just going to have a miserable time. And actually, publishers know best. So maybe your game is not that good if you
Mm,
can't get it signed. And there's an element of truth to that. But I do think that just because a publisher or a big publisher or any publisher won't sign your game doesn't mean it doesn't deserve to exist, right? It might be actually a really good game.
right.
So that's kind of what I wish I knew to an extent, because I did go through a big pitching phase.
Okay.
Yeah, for various games, some of these included. See, that's what I'd say. But it's a bit of a nuanced answer, I think, because publishers do actually know best. It's just they know best what's going to make them money, right? They know
Right.
best what's going to sell 20,000 plus copies,
Sure.
and what's going to be easy to market, and what people are going to see on the shelf and go, oh yeah, that just looks like XYZ game,
Right.
that I know, or yeah, I saw an ad in a magazine for that, I'm going to buy it because it's got a massive marketing budget behind it, and that's valid. That's completely valid.
Sure.
But I think, some of the best games I have in my collection are indie games that, 99% of people who are really into the hobby have never heard of, right? And
Mhm.
and probably will never go viral, but are just games that resonate really well with me.
Yeah.
So I think that's what's really cool. I think I liken it to other forms of media, right? Your favorite movie probably isn't going to be a AAA Hollywood blockbuster,
Sure.
but those are the ones that everyone knows about, et cetera, et cetera. It might be some weird art house indie film that was made on a shoestring budget. Or it
Yeah.
might be, Christopher Nolan movie. That's equally valid.
Right.
So I think that's kind of interesting.
So, looking back on your journey so far, what's one mistake that you're actually glad you made that you learned a lot from?
Exhibiting at Essen.
Well, okay. Wait, okay, so that question had 2 parts. Are you glad you exhibited at Essen, or are you glad that you learned so much from that experience of exhibiting at Essen?
So, but yeah,
Okay,
both. Yeah. So, I mean, I had an amazing time at Essen. I exhibited there last year, by the way. That's
okay,
my first and only so far time exhibiting there. I had been previously as a visitor, and actually as a designer to pitch as well. Yeah. So it's just, and I, I've been to UKG a lot, and I got an opportunity. Basically, I didn't think I was going to be able to do it, and a, a friend of mine, a guy called Dixon from Simplexity Games. So he's an indie board game designer. He lives in the Netherlands. He's got a game that's just finished on Kickstarter called Knights of the Pond Table, and he also had a game called Driving Me Crazy, which kickstarted a year or two ago. And he was selling for the first time his first Kickstarter, and he had pickups, Kickstarter pickups, and he was promoting his upcoming one that's just finished, I think, in the last week or so, last year at Essen. And he said to me, "Hey, do you want to take some space? Because the minimum, by the way, at Essen is, in terms of booth size, is quite big.
yeah,
Yeah, it's much bigger than UKGE. Yeah,
wow,
maybe triple the size for a
ooh,
minimum. Yeah,
sure,
yeah, which is expensive, and the per square they charge per square meter. The charge is higher as well. So yeah, it's not as accessible. But actually, this worked out all right, and actually, I had a really really good time. But what I would say is like you are competing, you know,
mhm,
with the entire world. And you had like they were launching, I forget which company it was launching some Witcher game, The Witcher, and
yeah,
they had like I could have sworn it was Geralt. Right? Like they had this guy just like the best cosplayer I've ever seen working for them, and they had a Siri, and then they had I'm a big Witcher fan, but I forget the name of one of the beasts who's kind of got like a deer skull mask. I forget the name from the lore. Like he was on like stilts, and they're just
Wow.
walking around the hall, and everyone's just going wow, and then just going to go buy the Witcher game, right? So and everything else, right? You can imagine, giant double hands and things,
Yep.
and you're competing with that, and yeah, it was a bit
Mm.
rough in that respect, but I still had a good time. But yeah, that was
Good.
kind of interesting.
Was there either a board game or a board game publisher that inspired you in your design work with PlayMonkey Games?
Yeah, I mean, I'd say I'd idolize Yellow, the French publisher. Yeah, they're just phenomenal quality in terms of game design selection, the production quality. I mean, for a mass market, right? I'm not saying it's like the best produced games
Right,
ever,
right.
but like really nice rule books, nice components, and and also Yellow have a spin-off brand called Loki. So some people do know Loki. They maybe don't know it's part of Yellow.
I didn't know they were part of Yellow, but I knew about Loki.
Yeah, part of Yellow.
Okay.
So I don't know if there's like an age cutoff, but you'll see Loki games go up to about 7+. Maybe there's some 8+. A+ is that kind of sweet spot mass market, 8 to 10+, and Yellow, you get a lot of 8+ age range games. But Yellow and Loki, Yellow's been around longer. That I guess they just decided to differentiate. Loki's got this really cool, the branding on the packaging with the
Right.
dog and the cape and the blue thing. If you line them all up, with a Kallax here next to me, they just look great. So I'd say Yellow. And I did actually pitch a game a couple of games to Yellow and Loki actually, which they didn't pick up. But yeah, I'd say from a publisher, from like the PlayMonkey perspective, that would be for me, the ideal, the aspiration. That's a massive multinational company. So it's not a realistic aspiration, but definitely a good
Right.
inspiration.
So, how do you know when a game is ready for publication? Right. So you've got Muster and you've got Picnic Panic. How did you know? Like, how do you know when it's ready to go?
Yeah, it's a really good question. I mean, the simple answer is if you're a designer, right, which I know a lot of your audience are designers who maybe would like people to pick up their games or are considering self-publishing. If a publisher who you don't know and you pitch the game and they want to sign it, then you know it's ready. But it might be ready and they someone doesn't want to sign it. But
Oh,
but how do you quality control your own game?
which is a difficult question, right? Like,
Yeah. So with Muster, so I just call it Muster, but the full game is Muster Raise the Banners. And I've
uh
got expansions coming out this year that I was promoting at UKG, but Muster, the base game called Raise the Banners, was released last year. I designed the base mechanics really quickly, and I play tested it with my son, and he really liked it. But at that time, I forget how old he was. The game was a simpler version than what it ended up being.
okay.
And so I thought, well, this is good, but a game that appeals to 5-year-olds is probably not going to have the appeal that this needs to be successful. And so I started adding a bit of complexity. It's still a lightweight game, but adding a bit more take that and things like that. And then I started play testing, and I did print and play testing on the internet, and got a lot of people signed up. Actually, I got like over 100 signups, which is great. I mean, that's a lot. And I think people really people liked what it looked like. It's a lot of familiarity to other lane battlers, right? So people recognize that, oh, that kind of looks like Lost Cities or Shot from Totten or
Sure.
Airland and Sea. So that obviously helps. If you're doing something completely weird and new, you might struggle a bit to attract that many people. And the feedback was really good. And then I took it to UKGE, I forget what year it was, for public playtesting. So that's one of the great things at UKGE is there's a group called you may be familiar with Playtest UK. So that's a kind of, I guess it's volunteers. I don't know if anyone actually takes money, but it's a very organized group of playtesters in the UK. But it's kind of group by city. London has more than one because it's big, but you get the Playtest UK Cambridge branch and things like that. And that by the way is quite a exclusive one. They've had a lot of good games come out of the Cambridge one. Smart people up there.
Oh, yeah.
And so they organize every year, and they still do it to this day. The huge area of of the show floor was in Hall 2 this year for playtesting. And honestly an incredible thing that they do, really, because they don't charge anyone for it. I think there's like a voluntary donation, but it's like it's a negligible sum. So I took Mustard there, and one of the good things that Playtest UK do is they standardize the feedback. And so you have like just every game that's being tested there has the same feedback for. And it's kind of, from what I remember, it's there's a bunch of criteria, and it's kind of like, I forget the name of, if you know statistics, there's like a name for a form where you know, from 1 to 9, you know, from very likely to likely, how likely are you to recommend this game, this kind of thing.
Sure.
And I basically must have done like 20 playtests in this one session. And I didn't read any of the forms. So I gathered them up and put them in my bag. And they were like, do you want to know what we think? And I was like, well, you've written it down on the form. You're just going to tell me that you loved it because I'm here. But I want to know what you actually wrote and walked away, right? So anyway, I get back home, you know, maybe the next day. And I just opened an Excel spreadsheet, and I just inputted everyone's numerical score for each of the categories. On the form, it's not numerical; it's qualitative. You know, very fun.
Right.
Not, yeah.
Right.
But I sort of made it numerical, and then I just averaged them, and the average fun score was like 9.1 out of 10, and I was just like, okay, that's good. The rules were like 6.1. I was like, oh, the rules clear. You know, there was work to be done. But that's all. That fun score is it. That's all you really need in the game. If people are having fun playing it, you know, no matter where they sort of come from, like they might be playing a really dry, you know, economic game and having fun, or might be playing a really silly party game and having fun. But if they're having fun, that is really the point of games, I think.
True. I think
You
so.
know,
Yeah.
and you know, it was like a really high fun score, and I was like, okay, cool. This is something I need to keep working on. And I kept playtesting it. I brought it to the playtest group in London, in Waterloo, where I playtested with other designers to really, because that's more of a boring playtest when you're playtesting with designers, because they're just analyze, why did you do this? And they're like, oh, was that because of XYZ fringe rule? You know, it's like,
Yeah.
yeah. And that helped with one of the with one problem that I didn't think was a design problem. I had this thing where there was a card. There's only 2 of them in the deck, and when they come out, both players. Sorry, when you have it in your hand. So in Muster, you have a hand of 5, and you're playing to the board. And you're taking turns, and if you had this one card, it would force a reshuffle. So
Okay.
what that was like, you would just hold that back until you've got a crap hand. You know your opponent's saving up their best cards. You just hit that, and turns out people didn't like that, because if you're on the other side of that, it's just kind of a horrible thing, because you've been building up all game, saving your combo, you know, for the end, and then it's just all out the window. It doesn't feel fair. So I actually kept those 2 cards in. They were called Rainbow Castles, and completely changed them to be, and it was kind of like one of these aha moments, changed them to be, to make a lane wild, which isn't something I'd seen in a lane battle before. And it just, and I WhatsApped the guy, his name's Sean Holt. He's a designer, and he's got a YouTube channel as well. And so like, hey, I know you didn't like this thing. I think I was on the tube on the way home. What about if I do this? And he's like, perfect. But obviously then you got to test it back to square one.
Right.
And it was great. And that was kind of the moment that it clicked. So that was it for Muster. So yeah, that's a very long-winded way of saying, yeah, it's very difficult to know when your game's ready.
What I love about that story is it demonstrates why playtesting is so important, guys. And it's one of my favorite topics. I could talk about playtesting experiences until I'm blue in the face. So I have to ask you, what was it like for you if you think back to the first time you exposed your game to playtesting to strangers and opening yourself up, or your idea, your game, which is your sweetheart, your baby, right? What was it like to open yourself up to constructive criticism and allow yourself to be vulnerable in playtesting?
Yeah, it's tough. It's really tough. It's really tough. Yeah, it's tough. It's nerve-wracking. The danger is, though, that you're looking for positive reinforcement, and that's really
Yeah.
not what you need. right? But equally,
Right.
I mean, I tested the game I was just showing you earlier, the Schemes of Wall Street. I was quite happy with that design. It was getting to a point where I was happy with it. Wasn't publishable yet, and I had a particularly bad playtest with some really knowledgeable people, by the way. So I'm not knocking them, but it was
Sure.
just everything that could go wrong went wrong. It was just, and the design wasn't good, but it was just a very bad playtest, and the feedback crushed me. I mean, honestly,
Yeah.
and it wasn't personal, but it was
Right.
like it was. They were kind of quite brutal, I think, and it was an online playtest, but with mics, and
Yeah.
I think we had to go through. It was a whole playtesting session, so some people playtest my game, then I playtest theirs, and everybody's really nice about it. But I think there was like a thing where at the end of the session, each person that play tested it, because this was a multiplayer game. I think it was maybe 4 or 5 people playing, and each person, what did you like about it? What did you not like about it? And I remember one guy who actually I respected. I'm not going to say who he is, but he's a published designer. And I think I said, "What do you like about it?" He goes, "Nothing really."
Ooh.
I don't think I was on camera, but I just I had to go on mute as I was like sobbing into my keyboard.
No. And
Yeah.
this is someone you looked up to who said this.
Yeah. Yeah, like I said, it was a terrible playtest. I don't think I ever recovered from that.
No. Okay. So that's a great segue. What have you noticed? Because you're involved in the prototype board game prototype group,
Yeah.
which is how we connected. So you interact with a lot of designers. What is, to your mind, the biggest mistake that first time board game designers make?
Yeah, probably not enough playtesting, which is going to be, music to your ears, right? Because
Yes.
yeah, I don't think most people know how much playtesting goes into the games behind you on your shelf, right? I mean, it's a ludicrous amount. It's probably putting aside, marketing a game, but probably the most difficult, time consuming part of the process.
Yeah.
So I'd say that here's one interesting thing that I didn't really realize until I started doing a lot of playtesting of my games and other people's games. When you see a game, and this is interesting because I saw the other day someone complain about this, but when you see a game with a bunch of variants in there, you think, well, this doesn't need variants. Why does this have variants? The base game's fine.
Yeah.
And the thing I saw the other day was a complaint, like, I don't want variants. Like, I just want there to be one way to play. That is actually a marker of a game that's been heavily playtested, because the variants are usually versions of the game that didn't make it into the final cut, but were perfectly good. Maybe they just led to, a longer play time and the designer wanted to keep the game to 30 minutes, or maybe they just made the game a bit too strategic and they wanted it to be
Right.
more lightweight. But usually if the designers kept it in there, it's because it was a perfectly functional game mode. But you might not want to play the variants, but I would just say if you see variants, that's usually actually a good sign that the game's been
Yeah.
heavily
Yeah.
playtested.
That's interesting because sometimes I wonder about, it's like, does this game need all these variants? Oh, that's really fascinating, and I had not considered that before.
I might be wrong, by the way. That's just my
Ah!
theory, because that's my personal experience. So yeah,
That way you can tailor the experience to the audience that's playing your game, right? That's kind of the idea. So and that leads me to my next question is, how do you find the right audience for your game? So in this case, Muster, right? How do you find the right audience for that?
yeah. I don't know if I think I've discovered what my audience is.
Okay.
Yeah, but I don't know if I really had that nailed on when I launched. Yeah. So my first what I would describe as publishable game, if that is
Mhm.
an adjective,
Yes.
was what is now Picnic Panic, but was back then was called Creature Crunch. That was the initial title. And that's a very easy young kids dice game, but mechanically kind of super tight, and actually just I'm really really happy with it. But it's I think officially it's going to be a 4+, but because of legal reasons, but it could be a 3+ game in terms of age range. But I just felt like, I mean, that audience is obvious, is young kids, but I just felt like it wasn't a good one to launch with because
Right.
it is a much smaller market, right? And when you're indie and you're niche, you don't have
Yeah.
customers. I felt like I'd say that, oh, it's become Picnic Panic. I haven't actually launched it just yet, but that game's been done for years. We're just redoing some art and branding. Muster, yeah, that one. Some people really love it, and people that love it, I think, people that play a lot of two-play games and like quick setup, end of the workday thing, and also people with kids. Now, this is interesting because I pitched the game to a couple of big family publishers,
Okay.
and I think one of them was Haba.
Yep.
Although it's not quite the right fit for Haba, but they
Sure.
evaluated it, and they're like, "Yeah, we think it's a really good game." Again, got positive feedback, which they weren't offering to sign it, but this was before I decided to self publish it. But it's not a family game.
Hmm.
And I said, well, what makes you say that? Like, you're obviously a family games publisher. I've designed a family game. That's why I'm bitching at you. Otherwise, it wouldn't be wasting my time. This it was two-player game. Two-player games aren't family games. And I was like, well, that's weird because I love playing this with my son. And that's kind of one of the reasons I designed it. And actually, a lot of people have come up to me now that it's published. Like, yeah, I love playing this with my son.
Uh-huh.
This is, or my daughter. This is, and it's families that are doing that.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
you know, you don't need to have a 4 or 5 player game for it to be a family game. So that was kind of interesting. Bit of feedback that I got that I didn't fully agree with. And actually, I've since said that to people. So I had people that bought the game last year who came to see me at UKGE this year at the stand, who've been playing it, since they got it a year earlier.
Right.
And I'd actually told them that story for whatever reason it had come up because they're like, "Oh yeah, this is such a good family game." I'm like, "Well, yeah, big family game publishers tell me two-player games can't be." They're like, "Yeah, it's rubbish." And I think people more and more. I mean, two-player games was a really big trend just in general a few years ago, but I think maybe underexploited in the family space. So yeah, that was kind of my audience that I found, and actually I'm working on well, I've pretty much developed 2 expansions to muster, and they're just shuffle in expansions, just shuffle them into the deck, and they add new rules and stuff,
Nice.
and it just adds a little bit more complexity. So some people are like, "Oh yeah, muster's great, but it's a bit simple," which is fair because it was designed to be low complexity. But this way, it just kind of expands it a little bit, and you can. It's one of these things where you can use one expansion or the other, and they give different things, or use them both. One of them's got maybe a little bit more take that, so not going to be as appropriate for kids. Or
Sure.
maybe you have little Machiavellian kids that that will love it. So that's kind of expanding out the audience, the target market a little bit. For some of the people that gave not I wouldn't say criticism, but fair observation that this is a bit lightweight for me.
We've talked a lot about playtesting and we've talked a lot about behind the scenes of designing a game and starting your own brand and things of that nature. You've got expansions to Muster coming out. Picnic Panic is kind of complete, but you haven't released it yet. Let's talk about art.
Mm,
Yeah. This was a topic that you had brought up. You had just sent it to me before recording, so I wanted to make sure we covered that. And you can tackle this any way you'd like. I think you had asked about, or you wanted to talk about the importance of graphic design
yeah.
in board games. Say a little bit more about that.
Yeah, so I often say this and I stand by it. I think graphic designers are the unsung heroes in board game design. I think it used to be in board game publishing. I think it used to be designers. Your name wasn't on the box. Like you might have been like, if you're lucky at the back page of the rule book.
Hmm.
If you go back, quite a way back, it was like board game design, is that a profession? I mean, what have they added here? It's like, you know, Milton Bradley has come up with this clearly, you
Right?
know. And so obviously designers, now people, have a favorite designer. They might have all their
Yeah,
games in the collection. They're getting signatures from them and things like that. And then artists as well, people can obviously appreciate art and that, hopefully if there was a lead illustrator, they get a name on the box as well, which is not always the case, which kind of surprises me sometimes, but they're usually at least, properly credited. The graphic designers, you know, I think have to fight for recognition actually.
sure.
And there are amazing graphic designers out there who have worked on some of your favorite games, and without them, it wouldn't be as playable or as beautiful. as it is. And I think, yeah, like I said, I think they're the unsung.
Yeah. You know, Meeple to Meeple, I've really built this podcast around the mission of building community, nurturing a positive sense of community. I talk about the design community all the time, the content creator community. What is, to your experience, is there a vibrant artist graphic design community in the UK? And how well do you work with them?
Yeah, I mean, I think there is. So on Muster, for instance, we had three, I want to say three artists, but it was two individuals and then a company. So one of the individuals, the lead illustrator, Pedro, he's from Madrid. He lives in Spain. Amazing guy, incredible to work with. And I'm working with him again on the expansions and would happily continue to do so. And then Gamzi, she's one of the graphic designers that worked on Muster, and she's based in London, same as me, and she works on a lot of games here, a lot. I don't know if she does. She's a professional graphic designer. I think she probably does things outside of board
Mhm.
games, but she's worked on Asmodee games and Office Dog and Ravensburger, and she works with a lot of indies as well. And I've recommended her to a number of other indie publishers. She's been great. And then I also worked with, I mentioned it was two individuals and then a firm. So the firm is called Meeple Foundry. So they're also based in Spain. They're run by Diana and Samu, and they're amazing. And they work with, they have a number of people that work for them, but they work quite heavily with Devere.
Okay. Yep.
So the White Castle, they did all the
Yep.
graphic design for the White Castle,
Okay. Yep.
for
I
which
know
they
that
won
game well.
awards, right? Yeah, but
Yeah.
people wouldn't know necessarily, that it was them. Their name's not on the front of the box.
Right.
Yeah, they also work with Salt and Pepper Games, which is a smallish Spanish publisher. And I know that they do some, not just graphic design, but also illustration for their games. And then their name's on the box, right? As Meeple Foundry as a firm. But But yeah, generally graphic designers, you wouldn't know. I mean, can you name any off the top of your head?
I mean, there are only 2 board game design artists that I can think of, and I think about them both every time, and that's Ian O'Toole,
Mhm.
right?
Yeah. Who's also a graphic designer, right? So
Yeah.
yeah,
Okay,
he's
see, I
a
didn't know that.
he's a Swiss Army
And
knife. Yeah.
Andrew Bosley, right?
Right. Yeah, yeah.
I mean, they're the 2 that come to my mind, but it's interesting when you think about, well, who's your you could probably name your top 5, your top 10 board game designers, but your board game artists, maybe not so much.
Yeah, and then you go on to graphic designers and it's yeah, you're
Right.
barely getting recognition. You could think of like Kyle Farron, right? He would be a big one.
Yeah.
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 Or
Yep.
Vincent Dutray.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So there's probably a bunch of others as well that we're not thinking of.
I think if you start thinking about it, they pop up. So if you've got somebody in the board game prototype group, or maybe not just they're not even in the prototype group. They're just, designing a game, totally indie. It's their first time. And
Mm,
they come to you and they're like, I need to connect with a graphic designer or an artist, whatever their needs are.
mm.
What's the one piece of advice you have for a first time designer seeking an artist or graphic designer?
Yeah, that's a really good question. And I actually had a lot of people ask me that
Yeah.
because they like the art and muster and they're like, wow, how did you come about organizing that and commissioning that? So on the illustration side, it's funny because you hear a lot about the starving artist, right? I
Yeah.
think there's even a Reddit subreddit called Hungry Artists, right? Where they just it's literally the name of the subreddit where they're just like posting up, please someone hire me, I can't afford
Yeah.
to feed myself. And so we shouldn't be laughing about that. But it is funny because you contact them and then they don't reply. So, this was actually my lived experience. So, but no, in all seriousness, for Master, I had an artistic vision, but I'm not an artist, right? I'd say I'm worse than average on the art front. And I mean that worse than average is worse than average non-artist in terms of artistic ability. But I did want I wanted the game to be free of all text and also free of numbers.
Okay.
And the game, one of the big influences was Lost Cities, and that's a very numerical game. That
It
could
is.
couldn't exist without the numbers on the cards. It's very sort of mathsy. So I made sure the numbers didn't go so high as they wouldn't be able to be expressed by symbols.
Sure.
So the max is like 6, whereas I forget what velocities goes up to. Maybe is it 9? Does it go to double digits? I haven't played it for a while, but anyway. So I knew it needed a really good visual language. So I knew it was really important. So I reached out to, I think, like maybe 5 or 6 artists who I liked the look of, who did a similar style to what I liked, or what I thought I wanted to achieve. And then I narrowed it down to 3.
Okay.
And what I did is I was very transparent with them. I'm like, look, this is a competitive process. I'm talking to other artists, but I'm going to pay you. I'm not asking for free work yet. I'm going to pay you to commission one piece. And I want it to be kind of representative of what your vision is for the full game. Your artist, I want to see your style. Like, how are you going to improve
Sure.
yourself on this?
Yeah.
And all 3 of them produced a piece to the brief, and did a good job, right? And I actually, it was a bit of a dilemma, if I'm honest, because all 3 pieces were quite good.
So good.
I think I'd even built up like a mailing list by this stage, and I was like, oh, I'm in trouble here. And so I think I emailed my mailing list. I was like, fill in this poll about these samples, about which one you like. And it came out like 33%.
No.
I was like, oh no. But what was very interesting, and you'll never get from looking at someone's portfolio, is what do they like to work with? And Pedro, who ended up going with, and the best decision ever. Nothing against the other 2; they're lovely, but he's been a dream. He was just great to work with. So that was very helpful. So I wouldn't just say offer someone the job because you like their art. I think find at least 2, ideally more, and commission sample piece. That was worked out really well for me. And I did similar with graphic design as well. So Meeple Foundry, who did most of the graphic design, so the Muster logo, the icons on the cards, all the card backs and things like that. They initially only had capacity to do a small amount, but what they did was so amazing. I said, look, I can wait for you guys, right? I will wait. I know, because they had a busy schedule to be here, like, so quite booked up. But I was happy to wait, and it was also a good decision. So yeah.
Yeah. So speaking of Lost Cities, right? Very famous 2-player game. It's been out forever. Everyone who's played it, designed by the great Reiner Knizia. You had an opportunity to meet Reiner Knizia. Do you want to talk about that experience?
Yeah, it was kind of surreal.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I and actually, you know what? I told you about, like, exhibiting at Essen was kind of like it was amazing, but it's a bit tough, I'd say commercially, right? Because you are competing
Sure.
with so much. But I was there, and I think it was early on. So for those that haven't been to Essen, it's the biggest board game convention in the world, but it's 4 days, so it is very long, and it starts on a Thursday. So I don't know how that compares actually to, like, Gen Con. Is Gen Con
Gen Con is 4 days with a
is 4
5th day
days?
for a trade day on Wednesday. So,
Wow. See,
yeah.
yeah,
Oh, yeah.
actually they have the trade day as well for
Yeah.
Essen. So yeah, it's a long time.
Origins Game Fair, Thursday to Sunday with a trade day on Wednesday. So,
Yeah,
yeah,
it's
that's easy.
it is massive, but obviously it gets busier as the show goes on, particularly
Yes.
Saturday and the week. So I was there. I think it was the Thursday, and I look over, and I'm at the stand, and I'm in Hall 5, which is a reasonably busy hall, and I look over and I see kind of a bit of a kerfuffle, like, not far away from the stand, and you're just always kind of looking out to see if people are interested in things, and I spot a bow tie. And, for those that don't know, Reiner Knizia, famously, I think, was born in a bow tie. Maybe, I don't know, but he's always, he's always, it's like his signature piece of clothing.
That is the story that I hear consistently. Yeah.
Yeah, but he's actually quite a recognizable guy, right? He's, if you're like me and you're weird and you're into board game designers, you know exactly what they look like. So I was like, oh my goodness. So then I was, manning my stand, and I was like, do I abandon the stand to go and fanboy Reiner Knizia? And I was like,
Yes.
yeah, you do. but also you don't want to harass him. So I go up, and there's
Right.
a bunch of people asking for selfies, and I just kind of patiently wait, and then I can't. Yeah, I probably said something that made absolutely no sense because, of course, I was very kind of nervous and excited to meet him. But I said something like, Dr. Knizia, very nice to meet you. Thank you for all that you've done for the hobby. By the way, never met him or seen him in person before. And somehow I'm just like having a one-on-one conversation with him, and everyone's kind of disappeared by this point, right? So there was a swarm, and then it all just kind of went. And he's just sort of nodding and smiling, waiting for me to ask for the selfie. And then I tell him I'm a game designer and that he was a big, influence for me. And it just kind of immediately changed. He just suddenly instead of just kind of like vaguely listening to what I was saying, he actually just focused on me and was like, okay,
Yeah.
this is actually something I want to hear. And fortunately, just by complete luck, we were within, spitting distance of the stand. I said, can I come and show you muster? And he's like, yeah, okay. So he just walks over.
Wow.
So I'm walking with him to the stand. And if you remember, I was sharing the stand with a bunch of other people. So I had my own little small area, but it was
Uh-huh.
quite a big stand. It was like a 35 square meter stand. I had a 3 meter sort of spot. And the best thing was that a bunch of guys on the stand hadn't seen him, but then saw me walking up Reiner Knizia to the stand, and they thought he was just we were just friends, right? They were like jaws like hitting the floor. It was brilliant. And so I show him the game, and I explain the similarities with some of his other titles and things like that. And I said, look, completely fine if you say no, but can I give you a copy of the game? And he had
Nice.
this like quite a small briefcase, just like a kind of like a soft, textile one, which couldn't fit a lot of games in it, by the way. And he goes, yes, I'd like that. And he took a copy of the game, put it in his
Wow.
briefcase. We got a photo, and actually, and one of the things I said to him as well, I said, because obviously he's famously prolific, right? Infamously prolific. I
Right.
said, and I don't know how old he is now, but he's not as young as he once was. So you might assume he's not as productive, right? If you were naive. And I said to him, how many games have you got coming out? And I didn't know. I think that's just what I said. He goes, "What, you mean just at this show?" Like, just I said, "Yeah." He goes, 16.
Wow.
Yeah. And he's so prolific that I think in the photo, maybe just slightly off camera, is his name. Like it's just happened to just be on a random billboard. Like anywhere you look, it was some game that he'd released. But he was amazing, and actually he walked away, and I was like, I can't believe that just happened. It was. Yeah, he really is amazing. So that was cool. Plus, everybody was like, I was able to keep the illusion that he was one of my mates, and everyone was like, "Wait, Reiner Knizia? Like, he came to see
Yes,
you?"
of course.
Yeah. He told me to meet him at the gate.
That's awesome. That is a great story. Thank you so much for sharing that. That is incredible. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, he probably went home and threw the game in the bin, but
Probably.
but I had the moment. I had the moment.
You know what though? He probably looked at it. I bet he you know, gave it a serious look. And maybe he didn't think much and didn't say anything, or he was like, this is good, and it didn't, whatever. But I bet he looked at it.
I was just
I'm
stoked that
pretty
he
sure.
he, he was gracious enough to take it because he didn't have to.
Yeah. So we've talked about design, we've talked about playtesting, we've now talked about artists, we've now talked about a great story to take home. Everyone can regale the tale of Reiner Knizia. Let me ask you about content creators. As a podcaster and content creator myself, how important, and recently, I have to admit, recently, there's been some stir about content creators just coming off of Origins Game Fair.
Really?
There's been some comments, and it's been on the buzz on the Instagram for the past week. There's been some criticism of content creators getting media badges to Origins Game Fair, and then once Origins is over, a lot of the content has been more about the people that they played games with rather than the games themselves. And so there's been a little bit of a, well, okay, and it gets deeper and there's more layers, which is true of anything that involves humans, right? But I wanted to ask you, as a designer, how important is the role content creators play in helping you to achieve your success?
Yeah, I'm not sure. You know,
Yeah,
I've got a lot I can say about it, but I don't know. I have met a lot of I've worked with a lot of content creators and met a lot of them in
sure.
person as well, and you know, 99% of them are lovely, lovely people.
Yes.
Right? Really, this industry is just full of amazing people. You know, I think that particularly indie board game publishers and you know self publishers can be naive about how easy it is to do some of the stuff that content creators do. It is not easy, right? It takes a lot of skill and a lot of practice, and not to mention obviously the kit.
Yeah.
But you know, like people upload a short how to play video, you know, for a lightweight game, 2 minutes, and you know people might who don't know better look at that and go, "Oh, that was a 2 minute job." They just took their camera out and recorded and spoke for 2 minutes, but
Yeah,
they've
that was a
scripted it.
2-hour job
Yeah, and the
just to
rest.
produce. Yeah,
And the rest, right? Editing it and scripting it and reshooting it
absolutely.
and doing the overlays and everything, you know, it's a huge amount of work. So, and there is kind of like at least two or three tiers, I think, of content creator. There's, you know, the people that are just doing it for fun because, you know, it's their hobby, and they're enjoying it, you know, but they're never asking for payment. They might ask for a free game if they review it, but, you know, that's not really compensating them, you know. And then there's on the other end of the scale, the people who are professional at doing it, you know, the big name brands. I won't name names, but, you know, we all know, you know, the larger media outfits. And then there's kind of everyone in between and the people that are aspiring to go up. And yeah, it's interesting because, you know, again, you can be a bit naive sometimes and think everyone's doing it for the love of it, and then people say, yeah, and they'll talk to you, yeah, that sounds great. I'd love to cover your game. You'll do YouTube video, you know, that'll be $1,500, and we'll say something really positive about it. And then you're like, well, okay, that's not in my budget. And then you go, hang on, this was someone who I really respected, and now all of their content I know is just they're getting paid $1,500 or whatever
Hmm.
for these videos. Is, you know, that is kind of interesting.
Yeah,
But then again, it's a job for them.
right.
So you know, I think you need I guess all that different to like a movie reviewer. You need to find somebody that you trust that you know says positive things, and maybe somebody who's you know whose likes align with yours as well. If you're somebody who follows you know
Yeah,
review content and people
yeah.
who say critical things, right? But I do feel like, yeah, maybe the board game industry is a bit guilty of like everything's great, everything is awesome.
And we all know everything is not awesome.
Exactly.
I think I, I've been guilty of that myself. Going, you guys, you don't ever say anything that feels, honest. You're always saying good things. I've been guilty of thinking that myself. The reality is that this community is filled with so many good, genuine, loving people. No one wants to say anything bad. So it's not a reflection of the game. It's just a reflection that we all love everybody and we just got a lot of heart, and that's okay.
I think there are genuinely a lot of really good. It's so hard to make a
Yeah,
game that they kind of have to be, you know, it's obviously art's all relative, but they have to be
sure.
good, really.
Hmm.
It comes back to the early point. How do you know it's publishable?
Very true.
Uh, but yeah, but actually, you know, the other day, so I played a game. I'm not going to name the game because I remember we've got to be really positive about all games. But I played a
That's
game
right.
at a board game cafe in Oxford not that long ago. I played a bunch of games there, but there was one particular game which my son who was with me was really looking forward to playing. It was a game he hadn't played that he wanted, and
Okay.
you know, so
Sure.
it was like the first game he played, and I really, really didn't like it. I mean, I really didn't like it. I'm not going to name and shame, but I really didn't like it.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
and he was like, "Yeah, that was kind of fun," but I could see all the flaws in the design. I mean, it was basically, yeah. Anyway, wasn't a good game. Fine.
So let me ask you this. You saw these design flaws. Earlier you had talked about the importance of playtesting. Do you think that this particular game needed more playtesting? Or was there more behind it to your mind?
So again, I'm trying not to out myself by saying the name of the game, but
No, absolutely not.
this game had an IP on it,
Okay.
and it was heavily promoted alongside that IP.
Okay.
So it was like a very popular series of books, and the books are great. You know, the books are great, kids' books. So this was like a, if you like the books, now there's a game. You know,
Sure.
which it probably amazing game design wasn't the primary goal probably of the publisher.
Okay. That's fair.
So
Yeah.
yeah, but I've heard some people like, anyway, I didn't like it. So and then my son, like, after playing it, was like, "Well, can we still buy it, Dad?" And I was like, "How about this other game?" You know. But anyway, later on, I was online and I saw a family game review site had reviewed it
uh,
and had been like really negative about it, and I was like, "Yes!" And I went on, and there was all the things I didn't like about it. I'm like, "Right, you are
okay.
my guy now. I'm listening to
Yeah.
everything you say." So that was the
There you
credibility
go.
builder for me. It's like, you know what you're talking
Yeah.
about.
Yeah, I think that credibility is probably the number one topic when content creators get together. We talk about constantly is how do we build our credibility with designers and publishers. That's all the time. Well, Spencer, thank you so much for taking time out of your busy schedule and visiting with me and sharing these stories and
Been
sharing
great.
your story, helping me to build this community. If anyone's interested in Muster or when it comes out, Picnic Panic, where can they find you, find your games, and reach out?
Yeah, playmonkeygames.com. It's all there, or Instagram. I'm pretty active there as well, so at PlayMonkey Games. But yeah, uh, it's been amazing. Thank you,
Yeah,
PJ. Yeah, good chat.
absolutely. Absolutely. So much. Guys, don't forget to hit that like and subscribe button. I say it every week, and I will continue to do so because I'm going to keep doing this. And be sure to post a comment for me, for Spencer. I love to hear those. They really help that algorithm. We've got to feed the algorithm. It is a monster. It is hungry, and we got to feed it. So thanks again, everyone. As always, be kind to each other. And let's play more games.